Hi, I am one dodgy dude, and on the eve of the US release of Trainspotting 2, I want to take a couple of minutes to examine the first movie. What was it about a 1996 movie concerning junkies in Edinburgh that enthralled thousands of people around the world and kept expectations of a sequel alive for nearly 20 years? The answer is simple. It starts with a universal theme. When John Hodge wrote the screenplay based on the novel, he pinned down a theme almost everybody could relate to. I'm not talking about drug addiction. That's just a superficial layer of the movie. The real theme is how to cope when there's nothing at all pushing you to lead a good life and be a good person.
The downside of coming off junk was I knew I would need to mix with my friends again in a state of full consciousness. It was awful. They reminded me so much of myself I could hardly bear to look at them. Here I was surrounded by my family and my so-called mates, and I've never felt so alone, never on all my puff.
Renton's heroin addiction is not his real problem. It's just a symptom. He gets off heroin twice in the movie, but he still falls under the influence of his so-called friends, who are the real obstacles to any hope of personal growth. The story ends not when he quits heroin for good, but when he breaks away from his poisonous friends. The character of Tommy is further evidence of what the underlying theme of the movie really is. He never tried any drugs, but he was emotionally dependent on his girlfriend Lizzie. So much that when she dumped him, his entire life fell apart, as if he no longer had anything to hold him together. The movie's theme shines a light on an important truth. You can be addicted to many things. The question is not what, but why you are addicted in the first place. The second most important accomplishment of the story is the character work. A key principle in screenwriting is to introduce your characters by underpinning their defining trait. Sick Boy is shown being sneaky and lying when caught, a man who looks out for himself. Begbie is gleefully and unapologetically violent, a psychotic, domineering alpha male. Spot is the weakling, a master at screwing things up. Tommy is completely on his own, at the mercy of friends who won't lift a finger to help him. And his expression hints that he is surprised by this. And Renton? He rolls across the hood of a car that almost hit him and laughs it off like it's nothing. Here's a man who's still standing thanks to his luck, as he later admits himself.
It seems, however, I really am the luckiest guy in the world. Several years of addiction right in the middle of an epidemic, surrounded by the living dead. But not me. I'm negative.
Yet all these times he gets hit by something are like wake-up calls, reminders that he's headed in the wrong direction. Of all the guys, he's the only one who actively tries to become a better person. Renton's awareness that he's not a good person and his innermost desire for change is what makes him a sympathetic character, and the perfect lead for this movie. He goes along for some pretty scummy endeavors, to say the least, but we remain sympathetic because even in the movie's darkest, most depressing scene, he doesn't lie to himself and shows a yearning, however weak, for sincere change.
I wished I could think of something to say. Something sympathetic. Something human.
He may be scuzzy and a junkie, but at least he's honest. And in a movie where most of the characters lie to themselves and to each other, we'll root for the one who at least faces up to the truth. All the characters are embodiments of the main theme, which is why they feel so compelling. Begbie fills up the void in his life by asserting himself through violence, physical and psychological. Sick Boy goes for intellectual dominance.
Certainly a phenomenon in all walks of life.
What do you mean?
Well, at one point you've got it, and then you lose it, and it's gone forever. All walks of life.
Tommy loses control of his life when his girlfriend breaks up with him. And Spot has no purpose in life and is at the complete mercy of his friends.
Spud, you've already been to jail. What's the deal? You like it so much you want to go back?
I just want the money, Mark.
In the end, they all serve the story and its theme. The third major element of the story is immersion. The underground culture of drug consumption is not a pretty sight, but it is well documented. It doesn't matter if a writer wants to immerse us in a galaxy far, far away or the subculture of Scottish junkies. The common requisite is that the details of the world be specific and well researched.
Relinquishing junk, stage 1, preparation. Ice cream, vanilla, 1 large tub of. Magnesia, milk of, 1 bottle. Paracetamol, mouthwash, vitamins, mineral water, Lucasade.
These are the details that only a person with first or second-hand experience can summon. Generalities and amateur guesswork are not going to cut it. In fact, they can inflict too much damage on your credibility as a writer. Weaving a world where the audience can lose itself is one of the major responsibilities of a writer, and should not be taken lightly. The final point I want to make is presentation. As a storyteller, whether as director or writer, you can decide how everything is presented. Take another movie that focuses on drug addiction, Requiem for a Dream. A fine movie, but much darker and depressing than Trainspotting, although no babies die in that one. Danny Boyle and John Hodge played down the grittiness of the movie with sense of humor and hyper-realism. Take our first glimpse of the junkie then, when we meet Sick Boy pontificating about James Bond.
Goldfinger's better than Dr. No. Both of them are a lot better than Diamonds Are Forever. Our judgment reflected in its relatively poor showing at the box office.
Here the filmmakers are borrowing a leaf from Tarantino, using what I call the impassioned discussion about something trivial for comedic purposes. It's a nice, hyper-realistic touch that lightens what could otherwise be a grim setting and moment. Danny Boyle is fantastic at using the soundtrack to simulate the pumped-up feel of being high. Or to subvert the expected mood of a scene.
Relinquishing junk, stage 1, preparation.
Regardless of purpose, these are all excellent tactics to turn a movie that could be predictably depressing into something that is almost upbeat most of the time. Trainspotting is on its way to becoming a film classic. 20 years have barely aged the movie, and I get the feeling even 50 more years won't put a damper on it. There are many more elements that fashion this film into a bona fide classic. Too many for one video. But the major ones are the universal theme and the three-dimensional characters who reflect said theme. Those are the starting points of any story that aspires to immortality. Let us hope the filmmakers remember that lesson for Trainspotting 2.